This video is the first of a four-part series of the Bible book, Revelation chapter 17, Birth of the Son, God, Worship. The United Nations is an international organization whose stated aims are facilitating cooperation in international law, international security, economic development, social progress, human rights, and an achievement of world peace. Moreover, it represents our present-time Tower of Babel. The original tower was built during the Babylonian period of 3500 to 2400 BC, a period when there were only one language. It was constructed by Nimrod, the great-grandson of Noah, the grandson of Ham, and the son of Cush. During this era, the people of the earth became skilled in construction and decided to build a city with a tower that would reach to heaven. By building a tower, they wanted to make a name for themselves and also prevent themselves from being scattered all over the face of the earth. God saw the tower they were building, and he perceived their intentions. And in his infinite wisdom, he knew this stairway to heaven would only lead the people away from God. He noted the powerful force in their unity of purpose. It is recorded in Genesis 10th chapter, verses 8 through 12, and 11th chapter, verses 1 through 9. Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and County in the land of Shinar. From that land he went to Assyria and built Nineveh, Rehoboth, Calah, and Rezin between Nineveh and Calah. Now the whole earth had one language and one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Then they said to one another, Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for a mortar. And they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And the Lord said, Indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language, and this is what they begin to do. Now nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore its name is called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. And from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth. Now, later on in this video, I want you to remember that 9 cities were mentioned that surrounded the tower. And when we reach that point, it may be a bone-chilling effect for some of you. Now, the cities are Babel, Erech, Akkad, and County, Assyria, Nineveh, Rehoboth, Calah, and Rezin. Remember those cities now, because we're going to come up on it later on in the video. Yet, with today's technology, every leader that attends the United Nations can understand one another through interpreters. And there are 6 official languages spoken at the United Nations. And they are English, French, Spanish, Russian, Arabic, and Chinese. Nimrod had a plan to strengthen his religious evil system. And throughout history, legend has it, not the Bible, legend has it that he married his own mother. That's right, he married his own mama, who is known as Semiramis. She was a prostitute and madam that owned a brothel or whorehouse in the city of Erech. She was the first deified queen of Babylon, and he was the first deified king. Semiramis was as wicked as her husband/son Nimrod, and she had such a beautiful face. She made beautiful women look common. Incest was used as a basis to unite this newly false religious system. When she got pregnant by another man, that caused a split between her and Nimrod. So then she had some soldiers kill him by chopping off his arms and his legs and his penis, and then set him on fire. But she spared his penis. Then she spread a rumor that he had ascended up to heaven, where he had became one with the Son. Lord have mercy, she was tripping. Then she said the newborn was a reincarnated Nimrod, and he had returned to the earth to save the human race. And she named the child Tammuz. You can find the name Tammuz in Ezekiel 8th chapter. Then she began the worship of Satan by telling stories of the constellations with the naming of false gods that we know of today as astrology. In addition, the worship also involved everything from wicked sexual practices in a temple with male and female prostitutes that often began with the human sacrifice of children thrown into a furnace that was a replica of a bull called Moloch. So when you see a pillar with great heights, it was built as a memorial and representation of Nimrod's stiff private. She also built one that was 130 feet in height, as you can see here, which is the Luxor temple in Egypt that dates back to 1400 BC. Alright, let's go to Leviticus 26 chapter verse 1. You shall not make idols for yourselves. I repeat, you shall not make idols for yourselves, neither a carved image, nor a sacred pillar. Nor a sacred pillar shall you rear up for yourselves, nor shall you set up an engraved stone in your land to bow down to it, for I am the Lord your God. She also built the 8-rayed sunwheel, which was a representation of the sun god. When she died, she was deified as the mother of the sun god. In various times and cultures throughout history and around the world, this mother sun, S-O-N, sun god, S-U-N, worship, has been worshipped under different names. In Egypt, the mother and child were worshipped as Isis and Horus. In India, as Isi and Iswara. In China and Japan, as the mother goddess Shingmu with child. In Greece, it was Irene and Plutus. In Rome, as Venus and Cupid. And in Scandinavia, as Frigga and Balder. In Babylon, as Easter and Tammuz. And in Phoenicia, which is our modern day Israel, as Ashtoreth and Baal. The name Ashtoreth means goddess of love and materialism. Baal means sun god, child sacrifice, and sexual wickedness. The Catholic Church has Mary and Jesus. In 1854, Pope Pius IX declared Mary sinless. And in 1951, Pope Pius XII declared she had ascended into heaven, where she was crowned as the Queen of Heaven. This was called the Assumption of Mary. Since then, the complete system of the Babylonian worship with Mary was established within Catholicism. Within a few minutes, I will show you a mind-boggling visual proof. Now, folks, these two photos are the same. They are the Queen of Heaven in the European Union Cathedral in Strasbourg, France. All right, let's go to Jeremiah 7th chapter, verse 17 to 19. Do you not see what they do in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem? The children gather wood, the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead dough to make cakes for the Queen of Heaven. There it is, folks, to make cakes for the Queen of Heaven. And they pour out drink offerings to other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. Do they provoke me to anger, says the Lord? Do they not provoke themselves to the shame of their own faces? At the time of Jesus, when the Roman Empire was in power, the Roman Caesars were to be worshipped as gods. And if the people did not bow down to the Roman Caesars, they would be killed or persecuted. Satan directed his persecution on the early believers in an effort to stamp out Christianity. But as more Christians were put to death, more Christians retaliated. So when Satan saw that his plan could not eradicate Christianity, he moved to attack the church from the inside out. Then Satan laid the foundation and established his own version of his own Christian church. So the Caesars exchanged their Roman togas for religious costumes so they could continue to control the world's governments and economies through religion. After Constantine defeated Maxentius in 312 AD in a battle for the throne of Rome, Constantine issued his Edict of Toleration in 313 to stop the persecution of the true believers in Christ. Now that the Christian church has got relief from persecution from the outside, Satan will now proceed to attack the church from within. Under Satan's direction, Constantine set up the Council of Nicaea, and he presided as a Summus Pontifex, the official title of a pope. Then Constantine went on to mix Babylonian paganism with Christianity to make his new religious organization to look respectable. When these changes took place, Babylonian and Egyptian worship became the foundation of the church. The pagans were permitted to bring their statues and idols, and then the names were changed. Semiramis, who was the queen of heaven, became the Virgin Mary, or Mother Mary, or Isis, or Asterisk, or Easter. Then Nimrod, who was the sun god, became baby Jesus, or Baal, or Horus. Before Constantine saved their behinds, listen to what the children of God were doing. Let's go to Ezekiel 8 chapter, verses 11 through 18. There stood before them 70 men of the elders of the house of Israel, and in their midst stood Jan Azaniah, the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. Verse 12. Then he said to me, Son of man, have you seen what the elders of the house of Israel do in the dark? Every man in the chambers of his image? For they say, the Lord does not see us. The Lord has forsaken the land. Verse 13. He also said to me, Yet again you shall see greater abominations that they do. Verse 14. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the house of the Lord, which was toward the north. And women sat there weeping for Tammuz. I repeat, and women sat there weeping for Tammuz. Verse 15. Then he said to me, Have you seen this, O son of man? Yet again you shall see greater abominations than these. Verse 16. He brought me into the inner court of the house of the Lord, and at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east, and they worshiped the sun toward the east. Now folks, by turning their backs to the temple of the Lord, these 25 men weren't just facing the east to worship the sun. They were symbolically and quite literally turning their backs on the presence of God, which dwelled in the Holy of Holies behind them. And that includes the Ark of the Covenant, which was the central object in that sacred space. This powerful religious institution is now known as the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church, folks. Let's go to Daniel, 3rd chapter, verse 1, then we'll drop down to 5 through 6. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits. 60 cubits is 30 feet, and its width 6 cubits, as 3 feet. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. That at the time you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and psaltery in symphony with all kinds of music. You shall fall down and worship the gold image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Now folks, this was during the time that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not want to dance around that pillar, that Nimrod's private part, so he had them thrown into a fiery furnace. Alright, let's go to 2 Kings, 10th chapter, verse 25 to 26. Now it happened, as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, that Jehu said to the guard and to the captains, Go in and kill them, let no one come out. And they killed them with the edge of the sword. Then the guards and the officers threw them out, and went into the inner room of the temple of Baal. And they brought the sacred pillars out of the temple of Baal and burned them. Now folks, It's fixed ready to get real gross. So hold on to your wigs, and you may need to move the children or cover the ears. You may need to cover the ears now. Here we go. These are the sacred pillars, which are the memorial of Nimrod's stiff private. To the left is the Washington Monument, and to the right is Cleopatra's Needle that stands in Central Park in New York City. It was a gift from the Egyptian king because the United States helped them build the Suez Canal. There are 29 of these pillars all over the United States and a whole lot more all over the world. Now take a look at the picture in the center. At the base of the pillar are crabs, so this one needs to go to the clinic. I ain't trying to be funny, folks, but I told y'all these folks is gross. Now check this out. Now there's a connection. There is a connection, folks. Now get ready. Get ready. Boom, shakalaka. That's right, folks. The Vatican. The Vatican. Nimrod's private at the Vatican. There she blows. There she blows again, the 4 and 8 rayed sun wheel. Sun god worship. Sun god worship inside the Vatican. Sun god worship. IHS is not an acronym, and I quote, for I have suffered. Rather, IHS is a Christogram. These are Greek names of Egyptian gods, Isis, Horus, and Set. Isis was a major deity in Egyptian mythology, revered as the goddess of magic, motherhood, and fertility. She played a crucial role in the story of Osiris, her husband, who was the god of the afterlife and resurrection. Saint Bernardine of Siena and his student Saint John of Capistrano used the Christogram to promote devotion to the holy name of Jesus. In 1427, Pope Martin V approved a proper reverence to the holy name and asked that the cross be included into the monogram IHS. Protestant Reformation began on October 31st, 1517, breaking away from the Catholic Church. Writing from prison, the Apostle Paul describes the joys of following Christ and persevering for the gospel and the secret to being content in any situation. Let's go to Philippians 3rd chapter verse 8. Yet doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ, Jesus my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Christ. Now folks, now let's recall on October 31st, 1517, with the birth of the Protestant church. Yet as of today, Christians celebrate Halloween, which is a celebration of the dead. Ecclesia, called out ones, have you suffered for the loss of all things? Holler back. Alright, sun god worship. Sun god worship inside the entrance of the Vatican. Now check out the mosaic floor. Now folks, check this out. It is a representation of the ground floor of King Solomon's temple and an introduction into the forgotten ideas behind the making of an apprentice mason. This is the original temple of Baal. Adults would gather around the altar of Baal. Infants would then be burned alive as a sacrificial offering to their god. There were horrific screams by the children and stench from being burned alive. Both men and women would engage in bisexual orgies. The ritual of convenience was intended to produce economic prosperity by provoking Baal to bring rain for the fertility of Mother Earth. Lord have mercy, that is totally ridiculous. Alright, let's go to 2 Kings 16th chapter verse 2 to 3. 20 years old was Ahaz when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and did not do that which was right in the sight of the Lord his God, like David his father. But he walked in the way of the kings of Israel. Yeah, and he made his son pass through the fire. And made his son pass through the fire, according to the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel. Oh my goodness. Folks, this arch is out in front of the New York City Hall. This is a replica of the gateway of the Temple of Baal in Palmyra, Syria, that was just destroyed by the terrorist group ISIS. Boom, shakalaka. This is your mind-boggling visual proof. On the left is one side of the coin, and it is Pope Leo XII, and it was minted in 1825. On the right is the other side, and that confirms the mind-boggling visual proof. That is the Statue of Liberty. That is the Statue of Liberty, folks, or Lady Isis. Now look in her left hand. She is holding the cross, but she is not even looking at the cross. She is insinuating that Christianity is just a facade. But in her right hand, she is staring and holding a torch, meaning sun god worship, promoting Mother Mary, Semiramis, Asterisk, or Isis. Check this out. She is sitting on the globe. Now what did Jehovah God say in the book of Acts? Heaven is his throne and earth is his footstool. So she is insinuating to us that the earth is her throne and everybody under her feet is her footstool. They had us tricked, folks. They had us tricked. Yak yak. On the left is a presidential coin, and the first issue of this coin was in 2007, and it is the exact replica of the Pope Leo XII coin. Now look back to your right, and there are words around the coin that is written in Latin, and it says Sedet Super Universum. In other words, she is declaring that her seat of authority is universal over the entire globe. That is blasphemy. That is blasphemy. Blasphemy means to show contempt or disrespect against God in speech or writing or action. Now think, folks, the Pope's coin was minted in 1825. The Statue of Liberty arrived here in 1885. That is 60 years later. That is 60 years later. Although it was not erected in a harbor until 1886. There she blows. There she blows. Lady Isis. Asterisk. Queen of Heaven. There is no Queen of Heaven. There has never been a Queen of Heaven. There is certainly a King of Heaven, and he alone rules in heaven. He does not share his throne or his authority with anyone. The idea that Mary, the mother of Jesus, is the Queen of Heaven has no scriptural basis whatsoever. The idea of Mary as the Queen of Heaven stems from proclamations of priests and popes of the Roman Catholic Church. Boom! Shakalaka. Now it is confirmed that the Washington Monument is the representation of Nimrod's private part. In this series, we will go much deeper about this nation's monuments or statues. Folks, it's a sad state that all of these years that we did not know that they had sinister undertakings. We thought this stuff was just art. Yet this nation's sculptured images have powerful conspiracies, and some are centuries old and have been oblivious to most Americans throughout history. Yet today, you will no longer be tricked, and I hope that you share with others before it is too late. This is the Washington Monument. It is 555 feet, or 6,660 inches. 666, mark of the beast, folks. On the 23rd of August 2011, a 5.8 earthquake hit the Piedmont region of Virginia at 1:51 Eastern Standard Time. The epicenter was in Lucia County, 38 miles northwest of Richmond and 5 miles southwest of the town of Mineral. There were several aftershocks ranging for 4.5 in magnitude.
Magnitude earthquake outside Washington, D.C. today, which grabbed the attention of millions on the East Coast. One indication, Twitter counted more than 5,500 tweets per second. So many people were on their cell phones that some service went out. The White House was evacuated and all the national monuments were closed for safety inspections. Late tonight, the National Park Service reported a crack was discovered in the top of the Washington Monument. Here's ABC's David Muir with the East Coast's unexpected case of the shakes.
We were pulling into the train station in Washington, D.C. when the station suddenly began to wildly shake. Officers yelling to us and to everyone to get out. As passengers ran to safety, there were immediate fears here that this was something worse.
The ground started shaking, people started screaming, running around.
All of a sudden, everything just shook. A couple of things fell off the table, and then everybody scrambled to the exits.
What we then realized was that millions of Americans had felt the same thing. It was 1:51 this afternoon.
We have to clear from the front of the building.
When that giant rumble sent fear through offices, train stations, entire cities. Our camera at the White House swaying. Helicopters hovering over Washington. The National Cathedral damaged. Part of one of the pinnacles falling to the ground. This woman tweeted, "I'm holding a piece of the National Cathedral in my hand." In Northern Virginia, cars smashed with falling bricks. In Baltimore, part of a warehouse collapsed. And in New York, where this country will soon mark 10 years since 9/11, it was the first thing so many people felt in their gut.
It's scary when you're all the way up there, on the 14th floor. It's not easy. You have all these thoughts running through your mind. It's scary.
And in Washington, where the Capitol, the Pentagon, and the train station were all evacuated, it was that same fear that this was something else.
You think about the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, and I don't think you can help but think about maybe some sort of terrorist activities.
Miriam Shadive was one of those workers whose mind was racing for a time. She was in her office building when the quake hit. We met her on the packed subway as she raced out of the Capitol.
First, did you fear what?
Fear if the building is going to collapse because I was on the 11th floor.
Just happy to be going home.
Yeah, I'm happy to go and see my son.
The 5.8 quake was felt all along the East Coast, from Massachusetts all the way down to North Carolina and as far west as Chicago. At the moment the earthquake hit, New York City's DA was holding a press conference. You could read it on his face. Workers with the DA's office raced off the platform, the press moving swiftly from the room. This was one of the strongest earthquakes ever to hit the East Coast. One of this magnitude, extraordinarily rare here. Even meteorologists were caught by surprise.
Why is everything shaking? Look at the lights.
It's in an area we call the Central Virginia Seismic Zone, which has historically had several 3s and 4s. Previously, the largest earthquake we'd seen was a 4.8 back in the 19th century.
On the West Coast, California is fractured. When one fault line goes, the damage is limited to within a few miles. But the Northeast moves as one gigantic block, the North Atlantic Plate. And so damage goes all the way to Canada as a consequence of an earthquake that could take place near Virginia.
The epicenter, Mineral, Virginia, about 90 miles from the capital, where the earthquake was caught by a supermarket security camera. And nearby, another store where the ceiling collapsed.
And then all of a sudden it sounded like a freight train was coming through and the ceiling started falling.
At the North Anna nuclear facility, just miles from the epicenter, 2 nuclear reactors automatically shut down, forced to use emergency reserve generators for power. The facility, built to withstand a quake 4 times as strong, but experts say this was still a wake-up call in a region not used to this.
Here in the Northeast, they're not that frequent, 100 times less frequent. We have less data points. So in some sense, we are working in the dark. People here in the Northeast simply treat it as a joke. But we have to realize that things do happen.
Tonight, so many families home and going to bed just hours after those frantic cell phone calls to loved ones telling them we're all right.
I'm fine, thank you so much.
In those moments when so many feared far worse, grateful in the end that this was an earthquake instead. I'm David Muir for Nightline in Washington.
This is the pyramid section of the monument. The quake made a 1-inch wide, 4-foot long crack. There were over 150 cracks in the monument. So Congress allocated $7.5 million, and it was matched by David M. Rubenstein, an American financier and philanthropist, best known as the co-founder and co-executive chairman of the Carlyle Group, a global private equity investment company based in Washington, D.C. This is a nice shot and they needed the scaffolding to repair it, and it took 32 months, and it opened on May 12th, 2014. Okay, folks, pay close attention throughout this video to the pyramid section or capstone, which is the head of Nimrod's private part. This is Israel's Supreme Court. The construction of this Supreme Court building is gifted by Dorothy de Rothschild. The Rothschild are one of the originators of the Zionist movement and was the most active actors of the creation of the nation of Israel. Dorothy's husband, James Armand de Rothschild, financed the Knesset, Israel's main political building, directly across the street. The Rothschild family is an international dynasty of Germans of Jewish descent who established the worldwide banking and finance operation and own the currency of 63 nations through the Bank of International Settlements. Boom! Shakalaka. Yikes! Let's take a closer look. Whoa! What have we here? Now we know who owns the United States Federal Reserve. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am a conspiracy detector. I just told y'all they own the currency of 63 nations. Yeah, boy. Stevie Wonder can see that. This is right outside of the building in the Grove, Nimrod's private part. This space is called the Gatehouse because it is the symbolic official entrance into the building. The pyramid was inspired by Zacharias and Absalom's tomb in the Jehoshaphat Valley at the foot of the Mount of Olives. There are openings at the top of the pyramid which enable the sunlight to penetrate inside. The reflection of the geometric flooring converts the pyramid into a mirror image of itself. Whoop! There it is. Zacharias and Absalom's tomb in the Jehoshaphat Valley at the foot of the Mount of Olives. Absalom's shrine has traditionally been identified as the monument of Absalom, the rebellious son of King David, based on verse 2 Samuel 18th chapter verse 18. Absalom in his lifetime had taken and reared up for himself a pillar, which is in the king's dale. For he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. And he called the monument after his own name. And it is called unto this day Absalom's monument. For centuries, it was a custom among Jews, Christians, and Muslims to throw stones at the monument. Now, folks, folks in Jerusalem would also bring their unruly children to the site to teach them what became of a rebellious son. Boom! Shakalaka. Ha ha ha! How you like me now? Yeah, all you Christians be running over there to Israel, spending all them thousands of dollars. When you go over there, check the whole thing. Get the whole story. When you leave the center courtroom, you will find the stairs going downstairs. Then at the base of the stairs, you will see a fertility symbol, which is always present in any Masonic structure. Now, folks, look at that. Now, come on now. Come on now. Man, these folks is gross. These folks are gross. This area is between the top and bottom floor parking lots. The large circle at the base of the stairs resembles an inverted cross designed to walk on. I repeat, an inverted cross designed to walk on. It is the only religious emblem designed to trample under foot. Lord have mercy, because I ain't got none. How much more severe a punishment do you suppose he deserves, who has trampled underfoot the Son of God, and has regarded the blood of the covenant that sanctified him to be a common thing, and has insulted the Spirit of grace? Boom! Shakalaka. This Masonic memorial rests in the center of the road in the city of Eilat in Israel. It is 193 miles south of Jerusalem and 5 miles north of Taba, Egypt. It is a very exquisite resort city on the Red Sea. These two pillars represent the entrance of the first temple built by King Solomon. Solomon was the son of King David. The pillars are named Boaz and Yakin, and you can find their names in 1 Kings 7th chapter, verse 21. Eye of Horus. Eye of Horus. This is Freemasons Circle Solomon's Pillar Lies, number 59 in the city of Eilat. There's a good shot. It's an alright shot. That's a little better shot. Yeah. Uh-oh. The Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. They're not playing, folks. They're not playing. Look at that glass capstone. Now what I did, I placed that, I did a copy and paste, and I put that seal of the US dollar on there so you can see that they do own the Federal Reserve Bank. Holla back. Better make Jesus Christ your Lord, because they're not playing. Now this is the beautiful aerial view of the museum. There's a good shot. Glass capstone. Now, this is the entrance. This is the entrance. I would not be walking around in that sucker. That thing look too gloomy for me. Not. Now, I don't know why they put all these books down there. And I didn't research it, because I didn't think it was really important. So, that's why, hey, go on your own. This is the new Carlton Federal Building, the new home of the IRS, 5000 Ellen Road, Lanham, Maryland. What do we see in the back? We see two pillars and the pyramid. Uh-oh, what they doing? There's a better shot. It's a better shot. Yeah, they're not playing. Whoa, yeah, they not playing. Better make Jesus Christ your Lord. They had the audacity to put the people put the Constitution on the pyramid. Oh, Lord have mercy, because I ain't got none. Whoa. Now they done put the Constitution on all four sides of this dang pyramid. Man, they not playing. These three pyramids in the land of Egypt has a correlation with the new Freedom Tower at Ground Zero in New York City. This aerial view of the Pyramid Giza is the most accurately aligned structure in existence. And at the apex within a circle, it is flat, as in on the Great Seal of the US dollar. It is not finished with a sharp triangular capstone as many of us has believed. And it is aligned true north with only 5/100ths of a degree. Woo! That's powerful. The centers of the four sides are indented with an extraordinary degree of precision, forming the only 8-sided pyramid. This effect is not visible from the ground, but only from the air, and then only under proper lighting conditions. So take a good look. You can count them. Where it's indented. 8 equals 8 equal side pyramid. This is the aerial view of the new Freedom Tower at Ground Zero. The waterfall pools are where the Twin Towers once stood. These two pools and the new tower line up equal to the pyramids in Egypt. Boom! Shakalaka! Ha ha! How you like me now? Ha ha! Ha ha! There she blows. There she blows. Yeah, it's a conspiracy. Yeah, it's a conspiracy. I'm walking the dog. There she blows. There she blows. 8 equal side pyramids. 8 equal side pyramids.